What's going on, guys? People of the internet, wherever you may be. This is SinWithVengeance. I am a YouTube content creator on this site. If you are new to this kind of stuff, this is the first ever, whatever you want to call it, podcast. Whatever you want to listen to in your background in your car or on your computer, whatever you listen to this. Thank you for coming in and clicking on the video or clicking on the link on your mobile device. So this is a new sports topic show where I talk about the new things going on around in sports, and I'm going to talk about some pretty highly discussed stuff that you may find on Twitter or on any other social media website like Facebook, Instagram, maybe even. I don't know. I don't use Instagram anymore, but mainly Twitter. If you want to talk sports with me, at SinWithVengeance is my Twitter. There's a link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. Obviously, this is going to be the only place where you can find it, but don't click on the video and drive at the same time because that's bad. I do not advocate texting and driving. But on with this little discussion thing. It's going to be every Monday, and whatever time it's uploaded, that's usually up to me. But we're going to discuss things that are just going around in sports. So this week's topic is going to be the NFL draft, the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Not too much on the NHL playoffs because I don't really pay attention much to the NHL as much as I used to. I will admit that. But on with the discussions. And the lengths of these videos will really vary depending on how much I want to talk about the topic. So anywhere between maybe 10-15 minutes. It could be up to an hour even. And I may have guests on the show later on if you guys are up to this, and if you guys like it, of course, because this kind of stuff will only be continuing with your guys' support. So make sure you guys drop a like, and obviously I'm always trying to be as interactive as I can with you guys in the comment section and on Twitter. So I will try my best to reply to every single comment and every single tweet that comes my way about the topics that I will discuss today. So let's dive into it. So the big thing I want to talk about today, and we'll get to that actually last, but the first thing I actually want to start off with is the NFL draft. I know I'm late on the NFL draft, but I guess I kind of wanted to let it sink in a little bit and let me get my actual thoughts on this, because as you guys may know, some of you may know, some of you may not know, I am a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. We got a really good draft. Every player that we got will serve a good purpose, even if they don't make the team. I don't know, our 7th round draft pick, Stevie T from USC, he'll probably make the team actually. But we got Goodwin, we got OJ Howard, we got a running back, we got a tight end, we got a lot of good players that honestly should have been taken earlier than they should have. They just happened to fall right into our laps, essentially. And OJ Howard was probably the steal of the draft. Same with Godwin. Oh my goodness, we just have three solid receivers on our team now. Possibly, we have so many weapons for Jameis Winston. He's got like 5 good weapons, and then we signed Riley Cooper, so make it 6. I don't know how good Riley Cooper will be. I hope he's at least somewhat effective. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, if Doug Martin stays healthy and he produces more than at least 3.5 yards a carry, this Bucs offense is lethal. It may be the best that this franchise has ever seen. And this team in the past hasn't had the most success on offense, I will admit. Even back when we won the Super Bowl, we were known for our defense. The Bucs have never been known for their offense at all. And now they're starting to finally turn a corner, and they got a franchise quarterback in Jameis Winston. They got, if healthy, Doug Martin. If Doug Martin's healthy, he's a really good running back. You got Mike Evans, possibly one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL right now. You got Deshaun Jackson, and Lord knows how fast that guy can run. He may be returning punts as well as going deep downfield and trying to catch a ball from Jameis. You got O.J. Howard. You got Godwin. You got Cameron Brate. That offense is scary. That offense may put up, like, if Jameis doesn't turn the ball over too, because his development is going to be purely based on, you know, if he can stop throwing interceptions and fumbling the football. And that's another big thing that I think they're going to try and work on this offseason, is having Jameis tone down the turnovers and try and protect the ball a little bit more. Because he could definitely, when he's on his game, he is probably one of the best quarterbacks in the game. And that's just my opinion. I know there's other quarterbacks out there. I said one of the best. It's not like I said that he's better than Tom Brady, because he's definitely not better than Tom Brady. He's definitely not better than Aaron Rodgers. But he's in that, he's getting to that elite company. He's working towards it. And I feel like with a really good receiving core, I think it could take Jameis to the very next level that we've been wanting to see from him. He's been kind of limited with weapons over his first 2 seasons. Adam Humphries, he was a good receiver, but he's not where, you know, Deshaun Jackson's at, or where, you know, he's not at that level. And Cameron Brate, he had a breakout season, but now that we had 2 really solid tight ends, 3 or 4 really good receivers, a really good running back when healthy, and a good backup in running back too, this Bucs offense could probably put up 30 points a game. Well, close to it. I won't say they will score 30 points a game, because that's a lot of points, man, to be putting up consistently. There's only been a few teams that have been able to do that, and they're championship caliber teams. The Buccaneers are getting close to that championship caliber offense. Well, they do have a championship caliber offense. It's just their defense is weak a little bit in the secondary, and I don't know if they're trying to really improve on that a whole lot. But they are I think they are getting close to being a really good playoff contender. And maybe a couple seasons they'll be a Super Bowl contender. Dirk Cutter's a really good coach. I like him. I think he really showed what he could do in his first season as the Bucs coach. And hopefully he doesn't turn into a Raheem Morris, where he's only got 1 good season in him and just completely flops. I think he's in it for the long haul. But enough about the Bucs. I know I've been going on about them for a good few minutes of now. But overall, I think the Buccaneers, they got an A+ in my book. Them and the 49ers just get A+. Now, you know, obviously the Patriots are still built for the future. They got a really good draft. The Steelers had a really good draft. The Bears, on the other hand, oof, let me tell you, man, I live 3 hours from Chicago. I'm not anywhere near, you know, anywhere big. But if, you know, I live in small old Iowa, and there's nothing really going on. According to most people, anyway. Most people think Iowa's just filled with corn, but there's people here. Trust me. The Bears were probably the biggest losers of the draft. You signed Mike Glennon from Tampa. You take Mike Glennon away from Tampa Bay, so Jameis doesn't really have a backup. So if Jameis gets hurt, just for example, this kind of goes back to the Bucs. But if, just say Jameis goes down, who's their backup? I think Ryan Griffin or something like that. But you got Mike Glennon. The Bears got Mike Glennon from Tampa Bay for 3 years, $45 million per season. Or not $45 million per season. I am off my rocker. But $15 million per season, and I think $18 million of it, that's on average, $15 million per season. But it's $18 million of it is guaranteed. That's a lot of guaranteed money for a guy who hasn't proven himself in the league yet. I liked Mike Glennon as a backup. He was a viable backup. But you're giving him that kind of money when he has yet to prove himself. And this is what I hate about the NFL these days. They are giving so much money to unproven players. And then, not only on top of that, the Bears had the audacity, and this is what baffles me the most, and this might go down as the worst trade in NFL history, like as far as how lopsided it is. Because obviously the 49ers fans are thinking to themselves, oh my god, we just stole the future from the Bears. Because that's pretty much what it was. It was highway robbery. The Bears traded what was it, 4 draft picks with the 49ers to move up 1 spot. And the 49ers had zero, zilch, nada, nil intentions to draft a quarterback. You could even John Lynch said it himself. I love John Lynch. He's a former Buccaneer Hall of Fame safety. I think he's got his first GM job. He went from the field to the studio back to being a GM and working in the NFL again. And he just made himself look like the GM of the year without even so much having his players step on the field. It's unbelievable. The Bears panicked, I think, and thinking that the 49ers were going to take a quarterback. They thought that the 49ers had like zero intentions of taking Mitch Trubisky. And yet the Bears like had this panic in their head, thinking like, oh my god, we got to trade up so many draft picks just so they don't take Trubisky. I don't understand that. Especially when you sign a quarterback for $45 million. You bet your bottom dollar he's going to start. If I'm paying a quarterback that much money, I'm sorry, he's got to start. That's too much money you're throwing away if he's just sitting on the bench as a backup. It's like Brock Osweiler all over again. I'm just throwing that out there. Then you draft Mitch Trubisky, a 1-year starter at North Carolina, who couldn't even beat out Marquise Williams in his season before. And I like Trubisky's game a little bit, but I think he's a bit unproven. And 41 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Those are some really good stats. He made some really good throws throughout his time in his one season in North Carolina. And I love the Tar Heels and all, and I just don't think they're a good football program. They've been kind of mediocre their entire, tenure in college football. They've just been so-so. They haven't been that top tier team. They're not in Alabama. They're not a quarterback factory. There's maybe a few schools that do that. Well, it varies, I guess, because a lot of these quarterbacks these days, they come from, a lot of them come from USC, from what I grew up with anyway. Because back when I grew up, shoot, you had Matt Leinart, you had Carson Palmer, you had John David Booty, just to name off a few. USC back when I was a kid just was a quarterback factory. If you wanted to play in the NFL and you wanted to be a quarterback, you went to USC. It was that simple. Now, obviously, other great quarterbacks came out of other colleges as well. Like Vince Young came from Texas, and Aaron Rodgers from Cal. Brady came from Michigan. But that's just another prime example. You know what I mean? But 41 touchdowns, 11 interceptions for Trubisky. Good numbers. Made some, like I said, really good throws. Had some good receivers. Do I think he's NFL ready? I don't know. I could not tell you. I have yet to see. I want to. If he would have stayed at North Carolina for another season, I think he was a junior when he came out. If he would have stayed for a senior season and he proved himself to be better than he was before, I would probably take a chance on him. I'm not gonna lie. The best quarterback I thought in the draft, probably Patrick Mahomes, but he went to Kansas City. He was a top 10 pick anyway, and I think Kansas City got a really good pick out of that because they need to find a replacement for Alex Smith soon anyway because he's getting up there in age. So I think with Mahomes sitting and learning from Alex Smith and Andy Reid, who's a quarterback whisperer, I think Mahomes can really take his game to the next level. I think he'll develop just fine. But Trubisky, I don't know. Deshaun Watson was taken by the Texans. I think he's, out of the best, all the quarterbacks that were taken in the first round, I think Patrick Mahomes is probably going to be the most he's going to be well set up. The defense in Kansas City's elite. I mean, Houston's is as well, but with Houston's offense, you never really know what you're going to get. Simply because, you know, they got DeAndre Hopkins, and that's about it for a talented receiving core. They got a few good receivers, a lot of unproven ones as well. Houston does, and their tight end position is also somewhat stable. But as far as Deshaun Watson, I think he's got a really good shot at being successful. As far as Mahomes, I mean, he's got a really good offensive line. Spencer Ware is a pretty good running back. I wasn't happy that Jamal Charles went to Denver because I think he can do a lot better than, you know, going to Denver. I mean, Denver's defense obviously is elite too, but I think he had the best chance to win for him was in Kansas City, and I don't think he realized that. If he was trying to win a championship, of course. I just think that ultimately in the end, going back to Trubisky, that I think the Bears kind of set themselves up for failure. I mean, it was smart to let go of Jay Cutler because he wasn't producing, and everybody knew it. Everybody in Chicago knew it. But you pay a guy $18 million who's unproven. Whenever he's played, he's shown that he can play. But he hasn't had that full season to really kind of go out there and show what he's got. And then you draft a quarterback when Mike Glenn is sitting there like, yeah, I'm gonna be a starting quarterback for the Bears. Then they draft Mitch Trubisky, and he's like, oh crap, what do I do now? Like, is he gonna? He thought to himself, I'm pretty sure at that draft party when they drafted Trubisky, he sat there like he just pooped a brick. Not even kidding. Like, I think he may have had to go to the restroom for a second to change his pants because I think he crapped them. But who do you guys think is the winners and the losers of the NFL draft? My biggest winners are Tampa Bay and San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and even New England. My biggest loser, probably, and the only loser of the NFL draft, would have to be the Chicago Bears. I had 4 winners. Obviously, Tampa Bay, I think, Tampa Bay and San Francisco had the best drafts, but Chicago easily had the worst. Obviously, if you guys have been paying attention to my Lions franchise, I think the Lions did pretty solid in their draft as well. I would give them about a B. They did pretty solid. Nothing too spectacular, but they kind of just needed to fill some holes a little bit. I don't know if they'll be a true contender next season. Depends on how well Stafford develops again. He had a really good season last year, but he did end up having that injury that kind of held him back a little bit. So we'll see where he goes from there. But on to our next topic, the NHL playoffs. And like I said, I'm not going to talk about this topic very long, but I do want to talk about it because I am somewhat of a hockey fan myself. As I just got back as of May 7th, the Nashville Predators have just advanced in the playoffs as I think they're an 8 seed. I'm not 100% sure. And as of right now, as I'm recording this at 8:17 at night on May 7th, because these are all recorded, it's not like I'm live streaming this stuff. The Edmonton Oilers are going to go to Game 7 against the Anaheim Ducks, and they're up 7-1. And that may not be the final score, so I apologize if that comes off a little wrong to some people, especially to those big-time Oilers or Ducks fans or people who are just big fans of hockey in general. But as of right now, as the third period starts, it is 7-1, and that is just disgusting. So, the Nashville Predators have probably been the biggest surprise of the playoffs. I will go out on a limb and say that. As of right now, they swept the Chicago Blackhawks. The best team in the Western Conference got swept out of the first round by the 8th seed Nashville Predators. And that, I think that blew everybody away, except for maybe Nashville fans, some Nashville fans. I think even some Predators fans were sitting there thinking, man, we played the Blackhawks first round. Well, good season, I guess. But the Nashville Predators keep on, I think they keep on shocking the world here. I mean, they've won pretty convincingly today. They had played stellar defense, and let's face it here, guys. The Blues, I mean, they haven't been able to score many goals. The first game was 4-3. That's pretty high scoring in my opinion for hockey. Most games are like in game 2 where it's 3-2. But after that, it was pretty low scoring. Game 5 was just only 2-1, and same with game 4. But the goaltending and the defense for Nashville has been amazing this series. I think the Blackhawks only scored like a total of 3 goals in the entire series against Nashville in the first round. That just blows my mind. And the Blackhawks are one of the most high-octane offenses in hockey. And it just blew me away. I'm like, wow. Like, that just blew my mind. I think the Nashville Predators have what it takes to go to the Stanley Cup. I don't know about winning it. I'm not going to predict anything. But the Nashville Predators look really good. And whether they face Edmonton or Anaheim, that is going to be a heck of a series to watch. Because both the Anaheim and Edmonton series has been pretty high scoring and pretty grueling, to say the least. A couple of those games went to overtime. But that, and plus it's it went to 7. It's going to go to 7 games. Unless somehow Anaheim scores 8 goals in the one period, which is not going to happen. Sorry. But as far as Nashville versus either Anaheim or Edmonton, that is going to be one heck of a series. And you may see a shift in either Anaheim or Edmonton's offense. Because like I said, that besides game 2, it's been a pretty high scoring affair. And a grueling one at that. So the tiredness of some of these players is just going to carry on to the next series. I think Nashville could win that series in maybe 6 games. It doesn't matter who they face. I think Nashville's got this. I would like to see Nashville go to all the way. You know, they're an underdog. I like underdogs. You know, I wasn't happy when they beat my Blackhawks, but I'm kind of rooting for them now. And you know, it's an underdog story. No one thought Nashville was going to go this far. Everybody counted them out against Chicago. I don't know if they counted people. I don't know if the general population of hockey counted them out against St. Louis. I think people started to get the vibe that, okay, Nashville's here. They're not messing around. Now, as far as, you know, the other 2 series in the Eastern Conference, you have Ottawa versus New York. Game 6 is on Tuesday, and it's at New York. And then Game 6 is in Ottawa if necessary. But I think it might go to a 7th game, considering that all these games, besides games 3 and 4, where the Rangers blew out the Senators and tied up the series, all these games here have been super close. Whenever the Senators have won, they've only won by a goal. Whenever the Rangers win, they win by 3 goals. But since this one's in New York, I'm going to say that, you know, it's been home ice advantage the entire way. I think Ottawa's going to win in 7 because of home ice advantage. But I could be wrong. I think this could very well be New York's as well. But as of right now, every home team has won. So I'm going to probably stick to that trend and say that the Senators win in 7. And Pittsburgh versus Washington. Pittsburgh's up 3-2. Game 1 is tonight at 7:30. I think Pittsburgh finishes it off and takes care of things at home, and they probably will take on the winner of Ottawa and New York. As far as who I would think, I think Pittsburgh's been really good this postseason. Then again, Ottawa and New York have been pretty good as well. Obviously, if you make it to the second round of the playoffs, I think you do pretty well in the playoffs in general. Because let's face it, not many teams get to go that far in any playoff series. So I think it's shaping up to be a really good Stanley Cup this year, and this is what gets me. And this is gonna be another one of those topics I think about later on. Before I get into the final topic, comparing the NHL playoffs to the NBA playoffs, and I'm gonna get a lot of "F you, Sin" and "Oh my God, what are you thinking?" Some of you guys may agree with me. I don't know. This is just obviously an opinion. But taking a look at how every year the NHL playoffs shape up and comparing it to the NBA. The NBA is far too predictable. And I'm sorry to those people who are huge NBA fans out there that just love the game, love watching Steph Curry, love watching LeBron James, and love watching, you know, players that just are so great today. I think the NHL playoffs, as far as, you know, competition-wise, I think the NHL is better in that sense. It's not super teamish, if you get what I mean. These super teams in the NBA, you know, like the Warriors, the Cavs, the Spurs even, they were kind of they're not a super team, but they're a really good franchise. And you could say Boston's a really good team as well. And Washington Wizards are starting to get there as well. But a lot of these top-heavy teams, if you look at the last two NBA Finals, it's the same team. And it's bound to be a third straight year where we have Warriors Cavs. What were the last three Stanley Cups? Let me take a look here. I know that they've all been different. And I'm on my computer when doing this. The Stanley Cup Finals, all three teams, the last three champions, have been different teams. Last year was the Pens. 2015 was the Blackhawks. 2014 was the LA Kings. And I could go deeper down the line here. And I'm looking at this the wrong one, so let me take a look at this, the right one this time. Year by year list here. List of Stanley Cup champs. It's been a different champion every single year. 2013 was Chicago, and yeah, Chicago was kind of a dynasty. They would be thought of as a dynasty, you know, for a while. Same with LA Kings, because they had Jonathan Quick. Boston won it in 2011, Pittsburgh in 09, Detroit in 08, Anaheim in 07, Carolina in 06. 2005 was the strike year, so they didn't have any hockey. 2004 was the Tampa Bay Lightning. Then you got the Devils, the Red Wings again, the Avalanche, the Devils, the Stars, back to back on the Red Wings. You got the Avalanche. We're going back to the 90s, folks. You got the Devils, Rangers, Canadiens, Pens twice, Oilers. Oilers were a really good dynasty back in the 80s because of Wayne Gretzky. But then back in 1980, you had a lot of teams that won 4 straight Stanley Cups, like the Islanders, the Canadiens. The Oilers actually won 4 out of 5 because the Canadiens won in 1986. You know, just a lot of the Canadiens have one of those teams though, way back before some of you were born. They were a true dynasty. They won a lot, and they were one of the historically great franchises in the NHL. But most recently, you've seen a lot of these Stanley Cup Finals, and you see just a variety of champions. Take a look at the NBA, for example. It's top heavy, and I don't know if that's good for the league, but it certainly doesn't. As far as me watching it in the regular season, I don't see the value. I don't. The most excitement you're going to get out of me is to see who is going to see. We all know who's going to be the top seeds in both conferences, both in the East and the West. Because you know, in the West, it's going to be Golden State. It's going to be San Antonio. It's going to be the LA Clippers. It's going to be, well, now the Houston Rockets. and the Houston Rockets weren't very good the year before because I think Dwight Howard actually held them back a little bit, and Mike D'Antoni has completely made James Harden into a beast. I think they'll be good for a couple more years, and they got to keep adding more pieces, obviously, I think, if they want to be a true contender. Teams like in the Eastern Conference, you got Boston, you got Cleveland, Toronto, even though I don't think they're that good. Besides, outside of DeRozan and Lowry, they're really not that good. And even in the West, you could probably say the Thunder, but they're a one-man show. And that's a topic I want to discuss later too about that. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. Other than that, I guess the Atlanta Hawks have been consistently good. They've made the playoffs a few straight years now, but they've kind of tinkered down a little bit. They had like a 62-win season a couple seasons ago, and now they won 43 this year, so a big drop off there. But it seems like usually the top 3, maybe 4 seeds in the NBA playoffs are generally the same, and usually the playoffs kind of play out the same way. And it's usually in the Eastern Conference, it's usually just that top 1 or 2 seed is going to be filled up with a LeBron James team. And we all know that LeBron is going to get to the finals again. There's no debate. He might, if it's Cleveland versus Boston, Boston's going to get swept. I like the Celtics. I'm kind of a fan. My first NBA game was a Celtics game. But they're going to get destroyed by Cleveland. It's going to be a sweep, if not 5 games. If it's Washington, I think Washington has a better shot. I don't know if they'll beat Cleveland, but I think they have probably a better shot than Boston. Because I think John Wall is a true difference maker, and they have better. I guess they, in my opinion, I think they do have somewhat of a better defense. John Wall and Bradley Beal are just dangerous. Outside of Al Horford and Isaiah Thomas and all them in Boston. Boston is a good team, but they don't have, outside of Isaiah Thomas, they don't have a true superstar. I think with Washington, you got, John Wall and Bradley Beal as 2 really good players. I don't know if Beal was ever an all-star. I don't think he was. But he is one of the better shooters in this league. I know that for a fact. And, Washington at home is so good. And if Washington can steal one on the road, even, that could be dangerous for Cleveland. And Markieff Morris has really come along here in Boston, or not Boston, but Washington. And Kelly Oubre, really good player as well. He's more of a good specialist for them. Otto Porter, he's all right. He's not like he's not anything special like Beal and Wall are. And Marcin Gortat, oh my goodness, I absolutely have fallen in love with him. He's a good center for him. He fits in their system really well. But back to the topic here. The NBA playoffs are just too predictable. The NBA is way too predictable. We already know who's going to make the finals before even the season starts. Pending injuries, of course. Like, just say LeBron goes down, Cleveland won't make the finals, obviously. It's just that simple. Then it's like the next team in line. Actually, if you take out LeBron James out of the Eastern Conference, that conference is up for grabs. Dead serious. It's up for grabs for any team. It could be Chicago's, it could be Boston's, it could be, heck, I think even Indiana could have put up a better shot. It's anybody's. Because let's take a look at the other first round conference series. Besides, if Rondo didn't get hurt against Boston, I think Rondo and the Bulls would probably have found a way to get it out of there in 6 games or so. Because I think Rondo was a difference maker in that series. But outside of that, the Eastern Conference is up for grabs. Now you take out Steph Curry, they'll be alright. They still got Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. I mean, granted, I think Cleveland, they got Kyrie, they got K-Love, and, J.R. Smith's gotten better on defense. somewhat. But Cleveland, I mean, without LeBron James, the team is pretty mediocre. Not to hate on the Cleveland Cavaliers, but their team is just they need LeBron. And like I said, if you take out LeBron, it's up for grabs. And let me know in the comment section again, if LeBron did not play in the Eastern Conference, or if he got hurt or something, just say he wasn't available to play with the Cavs, who do you think is the best team in the Eastern Conference? You could say Boston because they have the best record, blah, blah, blah. But right now they're getting pretty well tested against, Washington. And we all know how that's turning out. Toronto could even have a shot, I think. But, of course, let me know about every single topic, of course, in the comment section below and on Twitter. But as far as, competition-wise, NHL, I think, has it better. Just because of who makes it to the Stanley Cup every single year. It's not the same. Sometimes it is the same team, but recently, in the past 10 years or so, you won't see a team go back-to-back. Or even back-to-back-to-back. Or have one player make it 7 straight finals. Or 7 straight Stanley Cups. You get the picture. There's that whole... Yes, greatness is amazing. LeBron James is the best basketball player in the world. I get it. But if it's the same 2 teams that go to the finals every single year... Remember when the 60s happened? And, well, obviously, if you look at any history book of sports, you would see that the Lakers and Celtics meant a lot in the finals. And back then in the 90s, it was the Bulls. And in the 2000s, it was the Lakers. Or the Spurs. Or the Pistons, even. I think the Pistons went to a couple finals in the 2000s. They even won one with against the Lakers. But you get the point. There's a lot of dynasties in the NBA. There's a lot of great teams. In the 80s, it was still the Lakers and Celtics. There's just been a lot of good streaks of finals appearances in the NBA. And I don't think, like I said, greatness is great and all. And championships, I don't think should define a player too much. Like, I still think Karl Malone is still one of the best players to ever play the game. Does he have a ring? No. But he made it to 2 finals, and that's more than 90% of the league could say they have done. And I'm just being logical here. Obviously, you could go on and on and about rings this, rings that. Jordan's got 6 rings. Well, guess what? Bill Russell's got 11. Robert Horry's, I think, got 7. And he was a bench player. So, if you're going by that rings logic, Robert Horry is a better player than Michael Jordan. And don't take what I just said right there seriously, because obviously it's not freaking true. But all those rings people out there, rings this, rings that. Look at how many rings Robert Horry's got. I think he's got 7 rings. He won a few with the Lakers, a couple with the Rockets, and a couple with the Spurs. I think that's right. Again, I'm not the smartest sports guy, nor do I intend to be. But if I'm wrong, I will come clean and I will be like, all right, yep, I was wrong. If I'm wrong on Robert Horry's 7 rings claim, then I will own up to that real quick. Robert Horry, did he win 7 rings? He won 7. He won, and then Kuzi won 6. Abdul-Jabbar won 6. So all those rings people, oh, but well, MJ never lost the finals. So he lost in the first round. I may sound like the biggest Bulls fan hypocrite of all time, but Then again, this is going to fall into my next topic. But overall here, NHL playoffs are way more watchable. And now we're going to get into the final topic of the video, which is LeBron James and overall greatness in the NBA. As you may know, the Cleveland Cavs swept the Toronto Raptors. Not surprising. LeBron has, and everybody's talking about this proverbial switch. Oh my God. LeBron flipped the switch. Oh my God. Everybody's freaking out. LeBron didn't do this in the regular season. No crap. You know why? Because he knows when to turn it on. He is getting up there in age. I think he's in his 30s now. Yeah, he's been playing in the league for 14 seasons. He's 30, almost 32 years old. He's getting there. He's gonna be 32 in December. But he is up there in age. Kyrie's still pretty young. Kevin Love's, he's middle of the pack there in age. But most of that team is full of veterans. I think, you know, they got Kyle Korver, Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith. Iman's a little bit in the middle of the pack too. J.R. Smith's been in the league for a little bit. Kyle Korver has as well, just to name a few. But this whole proverbial this whole switch, they flipped the switch. Stop it. Just stop it, please. It's annoying. You wouldn't think that LeBron, the regular season in the NBA does not matter anymore, people. It matters to some degree, but it doesn't matter now like it did back in the 90s or whatever, or back in the early 2000s. LeBron doesn't need to play 82 games to prove himself. LeBron is probably the greatest player we've ever seen. Until somebody steps in and proves me wrong otherwise, you know, tell me. LeBron's been to 7 straight finals. He's been, I think, the total of 8. Or no, wait, he's gonna be in the 7th. He's gonna be going into his 8th this year. Because he's been this. He was in 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. He's been to 6 straight finals. He's going to be 7. It's going to be 7. And 8 overall. Do I think they can win it this year? I don't know. Nor do I care. I mean, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be Golden State versus Cleveland again. 3rd straight year, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I mean, back when LeBron was in Miami, it was, well, first year it was Mavericks, and then I think it was Thunder, the Thunder, but then in 2 straight years it was, you know, Heat Spurs. So 4 of his straight finals appearances have been against teams within that same division. Or no, actually no, 2 of, or you know, 3 of the 4, because the Thunder are in the Northwest Division, which makes absolutely no sense, you know, geographically. But that's besides the point. You know, LeBron is going to make another finals, and if he wins this year, that'll get him up to 4 rings, which is pretty good. If he wins this year, he'll be 4-4 in the finals, and if he loses, he'll be 3-5. Everybody's gonna talk about that 3-5 record that's haunting over his head. Who needs that? I mean, obviously, everybody's gonna make their jokes on the internet. I mean, I was probably the biggest critical fan of LeBron like 3 or 4 years ago. Now I just don't care, because I've just come to terms with it that LeBron is just that great. And there's other great players in the NBA as well. Now that I threw that name LeBron out there, you know, we've all talked about how great championship teams are. You know, how LeBron has won 3 championships, might be a 4th this year, and everybody's been talking about, oh, LeBron's doing it by himself. No, he's not. No team in recent memory, even before my time, has ever won a championship with just one player that is like, if he's not an all-star, he's close to it. So let me just run down a few things here. And again, this may be one of those FU sin moments, but no team has ever won it with that. With LeBron has never done it by himself. He's made it to the finals by himself, but he didn't win it. You gotta win it. LeBron went to a finals by himself with a 61-win team, and they lost to San Antonio and got swept. Guess what that San Antonio team had? They had Tim Duncan. They had Tony Parker when he was lighting up the scoreboards. Manu Ginobili. You know that's a team. They need at least 2 or 3 good players to win a championship. And that's what it takes. That's always been like that in the NBA. Always. Always. So everybody who's going to discredit Michael Jordan because of what LeBron is doing now, stop. And vice versa. Whoever's going to discredit LeBron for what Michael did, stop. Or at least have some common sense when thinking about this kind of stuff. No team has ever done it by themselves. In first round exits, that doesn't matter. You get eliminated from the playoffs, it doesn't matter anymore. You're not a champion this year, or that any given year that you didn't win a championship. It all goes out the window. The point of the NBA is to win championships, right? Or all you ring guys out there, according to these, players that need all these stats. But ultimately, it's a team game. The point of a team game is to win. Win championships. When I played basketball, I don't play for stats. I don't play to be... Oh, of course, I want to be good. I want to be productive. I don't play for stats. I play to win. And yeah, winning has to go along with rings. But no one can do it by themselves. Nobody. Name one team that won a championship with just one player. Bill Russell had Sam Jones. Wilt Chamberlain had Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. And Kareem had Magic. And MJ had Pippen. Bird had McHale. Thomas had Dumars and Lambeer. Kobe had Shaq and Gasol. The Pistons had Hamilton, Prince, 2 Wallaces. Need I say more? Even when the Nets played the Lakers back-to-back years, they had Kidd, Martin, and Jefferson. Still a really good lineup. Kenyon Martin was not a scrub. He was a pretty good basketball player. Not a Hall of Fame basketball player, but he was a really good basketball player. Richard Jefferson was on that same level. I think he made a couple of All-Star games. Those dudes could play. Iverson, you could debate, but he didn't win a championship. He got close with Carmelo, I think, back in like 07 or 08. When it was like Carmelo, Allen Iverson, and Kenyon Martin, I think, and then they had Birdman. I can't remember what year it was, but I know the players. It was either Iverson or Billups. I'm pretty sure it was Iverson. But look at all the great teams in NBA history. They didn't do it alone. No one does. Everybody can say all they want about LeBron's doing it by himself, or MJ this, Bird that. Stop it. Just stop, man. LeBron didn't win a championship until he had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. And then he goes back to Cleveland. You can say, oh, he didn't have anybody there. You're lying to yourself. You just are. He had Kyrie. He had Kevin Love. Kevin Love wasn't as productive isn't as productive now than he was in Minnesota, but he's still a very valuable player. He rebounds. And yes, LeBron gets mad at him all the time. There's been tension in that locker room, but they figure it out. They work stuff out. That's what teams do. LeBron didn't win by himself. MJ didn't win by himself. Magic Johnson didn't win by himself. Akeem Olajuwon didn't even win by himself. I think he had Clyde Drexler on his team when he won those 2 championships. I think he did. Let me take a look. 1994 Houston Rockets. I think they had Clyde Drexler. I know they had Robert Horry. They had Sam Cassell. He was a pretty good player. Oh no, they had Otis Thorpe. Never mind. I was honestly mistaken, I think. Let's take a look at 95, because I know they went back-to-back in the years that Jordan retired. Even so, Jordan didn't win every single championship in the 90s. Yeah, they did have Clyde Drexler in 95. They still had Otis Thorpe and Robert Horry. Vernon Maxwell and Kenny Smith were pretty good players as well. Sam Cassell was on that team too, man. Granted, he wasn't a starter, but I mean, he's still pretty good. He ended up, being a pretty good basketball player for his time. But like I said, they had superstars, or they had another good, valuable player on that team. Otis Thorpe was no scrub, man. And take a look at his stats. Not a bad basketball player. He played from '85 to 2001. Career 14 points a game, 8 rebounds. Not bad. The years he won a championship, he was 14 points and 13 points. And then he didn't even play for that Houston team that won a championship in '95 because they traded to Portland. That was the trade, Otis Thorpe for Clyde Drexler. And Clyde came in and pretty much fulfilled that role and still averaged 21 points a game. Clyde Drexler is one of the all-time greats. So it takes a whole, you need a couple of superstars on your team. You need a couple of very valuable players, and it's got to be either an all-star and a really good, reliable player, or a couple superstars and that third player's like, kind of like Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker. Ginobili wasn't really that kind of guy who just lit up scoreboards. He can every now and then, but he wasn't that guy. It was mostly Tim Duncan and Tony Parker. But you get my point. This whole debate of doing it by yourself and this and that, comparisons to frankly stuff that doesn't ultimately matter and doesn't exist. It's just like, why? Why? I don't get it. And you can debate me all you want, and I'm still gonna stick to my point. I'm still gonna stick by what I said about what transpired down in this show today. I think that ultimately we got ourselves, and if you want to win an NBA championship, you have to have a couple of good players. LeBron will never do it by himself. Give LeBron James the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're not making the finals. Well, they'll go to the finals, but they'll lose. Period. They might make the finals, actually, but I don't think they'll win. They would never win it. Name another good player on the Thunder besides Russell Westbrook. Victor Oladipo, he's all right. Steven Adams, not an offensive threat. Trying to name another few. You got Taj Gibson, he's not an offensive threat. You don't got anybody. Put LeBron James on the Bulls. Yeah, let's just say you trade Dwayne Wade, and this is obviously a hypothetical, but it would never happen. Trade Dwayne Wade for LeBron James, and put Jimmy Butler at the 2, and put Rondo at the 1. That's a dynasty. Because the Bulls also have, Robin Lopez, Nikolai Mirotic, they don't have the greatest bench. But Denzel Valentine, he came along later on in the year. Isaiah Cannon's also pretty good. Get rid of Michael Carter-Williams because he's trash. But anyway, that's just my opinion. And like I said, throughout this entire show, whatever I talked about, whether it was the NFL draft, the NHL playoffs, the differences between the NHL playoffs and the NBA playoffs, and then back to what I just talked about now between the greatness of NBA players. Let me know what you guys think, because your opinion does matter on this show that I'm going to be doing every single Monday. So leave them down in the comments, and I will get to them as soon as I can. May not be able to respond right away, but also hit me up on Twitter if you want to tweet me. Follow me on there, and I will try to, like I said, there might be a selected time where I talk about just the certain things you want to talk about. But with that being said, my name is SinWithVengeance, and thank you for listening. And if you liked what you saw or you liked what you listened to today, hit that subscribe button for more content. This is like one of those normal per week shows, but I normally do NCAA football dynasties and Madden franchises, but this is kind of like my way of expanding to other sports. I wasn't going to talk about baseball a whole lot because it's beginning of baseball season, and you can't really, I don't like judging baseball this early. I just don't. It's a long season. There's 162 games, and we're only like 30 games in. So I'm not going to judge a season that early on. But like I said, thank you guys for listening, and until next time, my name is SinWithVengeance. Thank you guys for listening. You guys are amazing, and I hope to see you guys next week and in the comment section and on Twitter. Peace out.